Hi, Sumates. Welcome to my channel. It's Needles by Tiara here. And on today's edition, I'll be taking you through the process of achieving a perfect bust caging as displayed on the thumbnail. So without no further ado, let's dive right into it. So on my lining, I've gone ahead to infuse it with my cloth gum. You can equally use your head stay on it as well. And of course, I've gone ahead to equally cut out my bust part with my wording, which I've infused all the way down. So having done that, go ahead to join down all the parts. So which is exactly what I'm doing. Ensure that your wording sits at your under bust point perfectly, which is exactly what I did at the center front and now at the side front. So we'll now go ahead to join all the parts, which I've already done, and I've gone ahead to press open all the same so you can see the effect on the under bust point, the way our under bust point is well relaxed and our bust curve is coming out perfectly. So flipping our lining to the wrong side would go ahead to mark out all the lines. So now at that midpoint, we'd be drawing out a straight line connecting from the upper part into our under bust point. Having done that, we'd be attaching our boning to this point following the curves on the wording, which is exactly what I'm trying to outline with the use of my marker. So at those points, we'd equally be adding our boning into all those points. So now at the joining part of our bust, which is this point, I would go ahead to attach our boning at those points, which is exactly while I'm outlining it with our marker. So having done that, at that point, we'd go ahead to mark out a vertical line as well, which will be attaching a boning to those points as well. Now for our horizontal lines, you'd have to follow the curve of your bust, which is exactly what I'll be doing. I would go ahead to mark out the lines following the curves. And we'll be drawing out another horizontal line at this point as well. So you could either use a 2 line at this point, or you could go ahead to use 3 lines like I did. So now having drawn out both our vertical and our horizontal line, would move on to place our boning firstly on the vertical lines. So this is my boning, which is a Regilene boning of 0.5 inch. Now I'll be placing it first on the vertical lines before the horizontal lines. So at every point of our vertical lines, I'll go ahead to attach our boning and cut off, leaving 0.5 inch at both the upper and at the lower side of it. So with this being said, let's move to our sewing machine to go ahead to sew it down. So I've gone ahead to sew down on the vertical part of our lines. So now this is our Regilene boning. So you could see I'll be placing it that way and not the other way around. So the curve part of our Regilene boning has to be placed facing down. So you go ahead to sew it down. So the curve part, like I said, has to be facing the downside of your wording. So having done that, I would go ahead to complete this other part of our Regilene boning. So please go ahead to cut off all your extra threads at any given point. So at that point, we'd go ahead to attach our Regilene boning. So please ensure to leave 0.5 inch at the upper side of your wording and go ahead to sew it down. And please, while sewing it down, ensure to pull out all the excess fabric. We do not want any excess fabric at that point. It has to be as flat and as plain as possible. So for the lower side, go ahead to leave 0.5 inch as well. So now for this part, I would go ahead to sew it down. Please cut off all your excess thread at any given point. So just like we did with the other part, we'll go ahead to leave 0.5 inch at the upper side and we'll go ahead to sew it down. So please ensure to stretch out. We do not want any excess fabric at that point. So please go ahead to sew your Regilene boning following the curves at that bust point joining. So exactly what I'm trying to do, stretching out all the excess wording at that point and following my curves while sewing down my Regeline boning. So you have to be as patient as possible. You'll most definitely get this right. So having done that, I'll be leaving 0.5 inch at the lower side, which is exactly what I'm doing, and I'll go ahead to complete my sewing. So you could see how perfect the curve is even with our Regeline boning being sewn on it. So you exactly need to have that same effect once you're done attaching your Regeline boning. So I would go ahead to replicate same at these other parts of our bust joining, which is exactly what I'm doing. Go ahead to stretch it out, leave your 0.5 inch, stretch out all the excess wording at that point, and ensure to maintain the curves while sewing it down. So I'll go ahead to cut off my Regeline boning, leaving 0.5 inch at the lower side. So I'll go ahead to complete my sewing at that part as well. So now we've successfully imputed all our Regeline boning at the vertical part. So we'd go ahead to impute it at the horizontal part as well, following the drawn out curve lines. So like we did with the vertical part, at the horizontal part, you'd go ahead to leave 0.5 inch at the starting point of your wording. So please ensure to follow the curves while sewing down your Regeline boning. It is very, very important so that your bust caging doesn't come out flat. So ensure to follow the curved line, stretch out all the excess fabric. Stretch it out very well and ensure that your Regeline boning is well laid, and go ahead to sew it down. So please watch closely and go ahead to follow suit. You would most definitely get it right. You really have to take your time to do this so that your bust caging doesn't come out flat. It has to come out as curvy as it was before you did attach your, Regeline boning. So we'll cut out leaving 0.5 inch at that point. So now we've done the first horizontal placements. Would go ahead to sew down the other part of our Regeline boning. So having done that, would go ahead to cut off all the excess straight at any given point. So please ensure to cut off all your excess straight as you're sewing. We need it to come out as neat as possible. So hence the reason why you'd have to cut off all your excess straight as you're sewing. So we'd move ahead to attach our Regeline boning at those other points of our horizontal line on our wording, which is exactly what I'm doing. So like I said, please ensure to follow the curves while sewing. So you could see how perfect the curve is still taking effect without looking flattened. So at that point, we'd go ahead to attach our boning. So like I said, you can either use 2 boning at this point, or you can as well, use 3 boning, just like as I'm doing at this point. So I'll be leaving 0.5 inch at that point. So like I said, please go ahead to cut off all your excess straight at any given point. We do not want your bust caging coming out not looking neat. It has to be neat or neat. So go ahead to complete the rest of our sewing, which is this. So you could see how perfect our bust caging is already taking effect. So now for the upper side, we'd have to attach our boning following the curve lines. So to achieve that curve, you have to go in with your seam ripper. So take off those parts at the top of your Regeline boning, which is exactly what I'm doing. Just shred it out as much as possible. So now go in with your plier, hold one part of your bones, try as much as possible to drag it out so you would see the curve taking effect, which is exactly what you're seeing here. So just take your time. It is not that simple, but you must definitely get it right. So having achieved that, I'll go ahead to cut off the excess at that point. And now I'll go ahead to attach it following the curves of the Regilene boning. So you could see the way the curve is flowing. I'll be placing it following that curve. So now I'll be placing it at that point, and I would go ahead to sew it down following the curve lines and of course the curve on our wording. So ensure to sew it exactly on your wording. Go ahead to sew this other side down as well. Having done that, we would go ahead to replicate the same process for the other part of our sweetheart neckline on our wording, which is exactly what I'm doing. Please go ahead to attach it this way, cut off at that point, and please go ahead to sew down the remaining part of your Regilene boning. So now following the curves, we need to attach our Regilene boning. So please watch what I'll be doing and go ahead to replicate. So your Regilene boning has to sit exactly on where your wording is. It shouldn't exit that point. And at the lower side, it needs to sit exactly on your underbust point. It mustn't exit the underbust point. It should sit perfectly at your underbust point. So just follow the curve lines and sew it down. So please be patient. This can be very taxing, but you'd most definitely get it right. So go ahead to cut it off and sew it all the way down. So now we need to sew down the remaining part of our Regilene boning, following the curves. So you could see how perfect our bust caging is even without any ironing. So now at those points, I've gone ahead to draw out a straight line and I'll be attaching a boning to those points, which I had already did. So now I'll be showing you what I did at those points. So now the under bust points, which were already attached our Regilene boning, at the lower side would go ahead to pull out our threads and now would introduce a Regilene boning under that's Regilene boning that we had already attached. So you could see it will sit very perfect at your under bust point. So please watch what I'll be doing and go ahead to replicate same. So it's sitting exactly at my under bust point. And now I'll go ahead to sew it down. And at this point, we'd go ahead to sew the remaining part of our Regilene boning. And at that part, we'd go ahead to make a top stitch as well to hold it down, which is exactly what I'm doing. So please go ahead to replicate same. And like I said, ensure to cut out all your excess thread at any given point. It has to be neat on it. So please go ahead to cut off all your excess thread at that point, which is exactly what I'm doing for mine. So having done that, we'd go ahead to attach our Regilene boning at that point as well. So just like we did initially, we'd go ahead to take off the thread at that point and we'd go ahead to fix our Regilene boning. And of course, we'd go ahead to sew it down. Like we did initially, would go ahead to make a top stitch at that point to hold down both the upper Regilene boning and the lower one. So please go ahead to replicate same. So we'd go ahead to attach a bone at this point as well. So to do that, with the introduction of our tape, we'd go ahead to mark down the value of 2 inches. So from the midpoint of our joining line, we'd go ahead to mark out 2 inches and take it all the way down. And of course, we'd go ahead to replicate same at this other part. So now with the aid of my straight ruler, I would go ahead to connect all the points into a straight line. So with our free hand, we'd go ahead to connect that point all the way up, blending in all the points into each other. So with that being done, we'd go ahead to replicate same for this other part. So now we'd go ahead to introduce our Regilin boning. Just like we said, we'd have to place the cuff part facing the downside of our pattern. So now we'd go ahead to make a slight notch at that point so that it will sit perfectly at the lines of our under bust. So go ahead to place it under and sew it down. So having achieved this beautiful end result, we'll move on to our ironing table to mull out and iron down all our parts. So starting from that point, we'll go ahead to sprinkle our water at those points, and with our hot iron, we'll go ahead to press down the boning. So the boning at that point needs to be as straight as possible. So please watch what I'm doing and go ahead to replicate same. So take your time, iron it properly. Those boning at that point, at your underbust point, needs to sit very straight as much as possible. So the trick is your Regilin boning responds to all the mold and the pressing of your hot iron. So the way you make the mold would be your end result effect. So at this point, please ensure to press down your Regilin boning. It has to be straight as possible. At your underbust point, it has to lay very flat. So you could see what I'm doing at this point. Please follow suit. You would most definitely achieve a perfect and straight effect at this point. So now go ahead to iron down all your parts. So now with the help of your tailor's arm, which is very important and crucial for this process, you'd most definitely place your bust point on top of your tailor's arm. So following those curves, go ahead to sprinkle your water and now go in with your hot iron and start making your mold. So please ensure to make a very sweet mold at that point. So go ahead to make your mold. So please watch what I'm doing and go ahead to replicate same. So you'd most definitely have to take your time while doing this. So please take your time to achieve the perfect effect. Like I said, use your hot iron to achieve all the molds that you want at your bust region. So like I said, your bust is not expected to be flat. Your bust point has a mold, which is exactly what you'd be using your hot iron to press down all your, Regilin bonings to respond to that mold. So with the help of your hot iron and your tailor's arm, you'd most definitely achieve that effect. So just take it one step at a time, you'd most definitely get it right. having ironed out that part, we'd go ahead to flip it over and introduce our tailor's ham. And of course, with our hot iron, we'd go ahead to make the mold as well at this point. So please watch what I'm doing. Go ahead to replicate same. Just like you did with the inside, go ahead to replicate same at this point. So please go ahead to iron out the curved Regilene boning at those points. Now introduce your tailor's ham. Go ahead to iron it back again, just like we did. Remold it, take your time. So having taken my time to mold it perfectly, look how perfect our curve is. So at this point, we'd go ahead to introduce our head stay. So this is what an head stay looks like. We'd be placing the gummy part of the head stay on our wording, which is the part that we attach the Regilene boning, following all the curve, the bust curves to be precise, and would go ahead to cut it out and go ahead to iron it out. So it means at this point you'd be layering your head stay 5 times. So you'll be making 5 layers of your head stay. So having done that, you'd go ahead to join back your fashion fabric to your lining. And of course, you make a top stitch at the neckline point. So this is what your effect would most certainly be. So you could see how relaxed the underbust point is, and you could see how perfect our curve looks like. So with this, we've come to the end of our bust caging tutorials. Thank you and see you on my next video. Bye.